All right, today we are going to learn about the process of factoring a trinomial. When we are factoring a trinomial, we are going from standard form to factored form. In our previous lesson, we were multiplying binomials where we had the two parentheses together and we put them on the side of the square, and then we multiplied the side lengths to find the area of each square, and we combined our like terms so we can write factored form into standard form. We're doing it backwards today. All right, so notice I have a trinomial, x squared plus 4x minus 45. This box has 4 terms, but I do not have 4 terms right here. I only have 3. So the first thing we need to do is identify our a, b, and c value. And I get that from my standard form, where a is the value in front of x squared, b is the value in front of x, and c is my constant. So I have my quadratic term, my linear term, and my constant. So for x squared plus 4x minus 45, what would be the coefficient or the a value for my quadratic term? Well, you probably say, well, Ms. Carter, I don't see a number right there. Absolutely, because it's invisible. So what number is right there if I don't see one? A positive 1. Well, what would be the b value? The number that is in front of the x. So that would be this positive 4. Emphasis on the positive 4. And what is the c value, aka the constant by itself that has no letter? Negative 45. So I'm going to take these terms and I'm going to write them in here. So I have a box for my quadratic term, which would be x squared. But for my linear term, I got 2 boxes. So I'm going to leave that alone for right now. But for my constant term, I only have 1 box. So we'll put our negative 45. All right. Now, I can't take this 4x and just put it in 1 box because it says I have to rewrite the b term. So I can't just choose any 2 numbers that I want to do. So here we go. To find the 2 numbers that I'm going to put right here, I'm going to multiply my a value and my c value. That's why we wrote the a, b, and c values, because I need them to do some real math. So I'm going to multiply my a value times my c value. So what was the a value? 1. And what was the c value? Negative 45. So if I got to use my calculator, by all means use it. 1 times a negative 45 is going to give me negative 45. Now, the 2 numbers that I'm going to choose to go right here has to multiply to negative 45. But I want it to add to my b value. What was the b value? 4. Well, Miss Carter, I don't really know my multiplication facts that good. It's okay. That's why I told you need this chart. So we need it. You got it. Get it out. So I found 45 on my factored pair sheet. Notice it does not give me negative numbers. So we got to know something about integers. When I'm trying to get the product to be a negative, that means I'm multiplying different signs. A positive times a negative gives me a negative. So they're saying that one of my factors would be 1 and 45. That means it can be negative 1 times 45 or positive 1 times a negative 45. Either of these is going to multiply to negative 45. All right. The other factors on that they gave me was 3 and 15. That means I can multiply a negative 3 times a positive 15 or a positive 3 times a negative 15. Either way, they're going to give me negative 45. And the last one, 5 and 9. So that means I can multiply a negative 5 times a positive 9 or a positive 5 times a negative 9. Either way, they're going to give me negative 45. But I also want the 2 numbers to add to a positive 4. So get your calculator if you need it. -1 plus 45 don't give me 4. It gives me a positive 44. Well, 1 plus a negative 45 give me a negative 44. -3 plus 15 gives me a 12. 3 plus a negative 15 gives me negative 12. -5 plus 9 gives me 4. And 5 plus a negative 9 gives me a negative 4. Which numbers I want to use if I wanted to add up to a 4? -5 and 9. Because -5 and 9, I guess I can highlight it then. -5 and 9 multiply to -45, and it adds up to a positive 4. So I'm going to take these two numbers and I'm going to rewrite my B term where it will say a -5x and a positive 9x. Because 9 minus 5, give me 4. They're equivalent. So now this look just like what we did on Monday, where we had our 4-term polynomial and we found the greatest common factor from each row by looking at patterns and structures. So let's look at some patterns and some structures. What can I multiply together that's going to give me x squared? A x and an x. Well, if I multiplied a x to an x, I get x squared. Well, what can I multiply to x to get a -5x? Hopefully you said a -5. And for this box, what can I multiply to x to get a positive 9? Hopefully you said a +9. We have written it in factored form. So one of my factors that's going across the top is x minus 5. And the other factor that's going down the side is x plus 9. And I want to know what my zeros are. So that takes us back to the lesson from yesterday. So I got x minus 5 is equal to 0. And x plus 9 is equal to 0. How do I solve for x for this equation? Hopefully you said add 5 to both sides. Well, what's going to cancel out? And I'm left with x is equal to 5. So one of my zeros would be x is equal to 5. Well, what about x plus 9? How will I solve for x? Subtract 9 from both sides. What's going to cancel out? These because they're opposites, and I'm left with x is equal to -9. So one of my solutions is x is equal to -9. What do you notice about this and this? They're what? Opposites. What do you know about this and this? They're what? Opposites. So let's check our math, our graph, to see if we was right. Our standard form was x squared plus 4x minus 45. And when we got our factored form, we said it was x minus 5 times x plus 9. Well, we were right because the parabolas match. Let's check our zeros, because that means that it should cross the x-axis at 5, and it does, and -9, and it does. I know that was a lot, but we're going to do 3 more examples. All right, let's look at example 2. I have standard form, and they said that it is cx squared minus 2c minus 15. What is your a value, aka the number that is in front of the square term? I don't see 1, so it's a 1. Well, what is your coefficient for your linear term, aka your b value? Hopefully you said it's -2. And what is your constant term, aka the number that ain't got no letter by it? And hopefully you said it was negative 15. All right, so what are we going to write in this box? Look back to your example now. Your quadratic term. So I should write c squared in this box. Well, what should we write in this bottom corner? Look back at your foldable at the front of it. Okay, my constant term, which is negative 15. All right, so I have to rewrite my b term. That's why I got two little green hearts right here, because I want to rewrite that negative 2 into two terms. Those two terms have to multiply to a times c, aka what is a times c, and I want it to add up to my b value. All right, so let's do it. My a value is 1. And my c value is negative 15, which means a times c is negative 15. Let me erase this. So a times c is equal to negative 15. So I wanted to multiply the negative factors of negative 15, but I wanted to add up to a negative 2. Add to negative 2, multiply to negative 15. So I'm going to get my handy dandy factor sheet. And what number are we going to find on the factor sheet? Net 15. So I'm looking at these numbers right here. Factors of 15. I have 1 and 15, but I want it to multiply to a negative. So how would we rewrite that? 1 times negative 15 or negative 1 times positive 15. Or 3 and 5. So I can say 3 times negative 5 or negative 3 times 5. Either way, they're going to multiply to negative 15. The question is, which ones is going to add up to negative 2? So 1 plus negative 15 is negative 14. Negative 1 plus 15 is a positive 14. 3 plus negative 5 is a negative 2. And negative 3 plus 5 is a positive 2. So which two numbers do I want to use? Hopefully you said these two. So that means I'm going to rewrite this green term for it to say 3c and negative 5c. Because when I add negative 5 plus 3, I get negative 2. So now we need to make our two binomials. What am I going to put outside of this box that's going to multiply to c squared? C and c. Well, what can I multiply to c to get 3c? Hopefully you said a positive 3. And what can I multiply to c to get negative 5c? Hopefully you said a negative 5. I have my factored form. One of my parentheses will be c plus 3. And one of my other parentheses would be c minus 3. My bad, c minus 5. What would be my zeros? AKA c plus 3 is equal to 0 and c minus 5 is equal to 0. How would we solve for this c? Subtract 3 from both sides. Well, this would cancel out and we would get c is equal to negative 3. So one of my zeros is c is equal to negative 3. Well, what about c minus 5 is equal to 0? Add 5 to both sides. This will cancel out and I'll be left with 5. So c would be equal to 5. All right, let's see if we were right. All right, this is my parabola that has zeros at -3 and 5, but I got to put my factored form in here to make sure that it matches. So x plus 3 times x minus 5. And they match because they're on top of each other, so we were right. All right, let's do another example. This example says p squared plus 16p plus 64. First, what is your a value? All right. So you should have said 1. What is your b value? Should have said 16. And what is your c value? Should have said 64. So this is a good one because everything is positive. I don't have to worry about all that switching my signs and stuff. All right. So what term am I going to put in? Why I can't? Okay. What term am I going to put in this box? Hopefully you said the p squared, which is my quadratic term. What term am I going to put in this box? Hopefully you said 64, which is your constant term. And what are we going to put right here? Two numbers that are going to multiply to a times c, but add up to b. So let's figure out what is a times c right now. So my a value is 1 times my c value of 64. What is 1 times 64? 64. So I want my two numbers to multiply to a positive 64, but I want them to add up to a positive 16. So I get my little sheet again. I find 64, and there's 64 right there. So these are all the combination of numbers that I can use that's going to multiply to a positive 64, which means I can say 1 times 64. I can say 2 times 32. I can say 4 times 16, or I can say 8 times 8. But I want the two numbers that's going to add up to 4. Well, what is 1 plus 64? What is 2 plus 32? What is 4 plus 16? And what is 8 plus 8? So which two numbers am I going to use? Hopefully you said 8 and 8 because they add up to 16. So I'm going to rewrite these two little boxes to say P, 8P, and 8P. All right. So I want to write my two parentheses. What's going to go on the outside of this little box on these two corners right here? Because both of them say p squared. So hopefully you say a p and a p. Well, what can I multiply by p to give me 8p? What can I multiply by p to give me 8p? Hopefully you said a positive 8. Well, doggone it, this say the same thing. So what can I multiply by p to give me 8p? A positive 8. So you probably say, well, Miss Carter, this say the same thing. This say p plus 8 and this say p plus 8, which means I have p plus 8 how many times? So p plus 8 squared. So what would my zeros be if it says p plus 8 squared? Meaning I have p plus 8 is equal to 0, and then I have p plus 8 is equal to 0. Should I have to solve this twice, or can I solve it just once because it's the same exact thing? Hopefully you said I can just solve it once. So p plus 8 is equal to 0. How do we solve for p? Subtract 8 from both sides, and p is equal to -8. So my 0 would be -8. That means when I put this in my graph, how many times should it touch the x-axis? 1. Let's see. That was the original, and now we're going to type our factored form, which we got x plus 8 squared, and it's the same. And how many times is this parabola touching the x-axis? Once. Where? At -8, just like we said. All right, let's do our last example for today. My standard form that they gave me this time is AA squared minus 17A plus 72. And I need to identify what is my A value, my B value, and my C value. So your A value, aka the number in front of the square term, my B value, the number in front of my linear term, and my constant value, the number by itself. So my A value is 1, my B value is a negative 17, and my C value is a positive 72. All right, we're going to start filling in our boxes. What should go in the upper corner? A squared. What should go in the bottom corner? 72. And what should go in these boxes right here that are like terms? Got to rewrite my B term. So what should we do first? Multiply A times C. So A times C in this case gives me 1 times 72, which give me 72. So A times C is 72. So I want two numbers that's going to multiply to a positive 72, but add to a negative 17. So, handy dandy factor sheet. I find 72. There goes 72 right here. All right, so here we go. So if I want two numbers from this list to multiply to a positive 72, that means both of my numbers either have to be positive, because a positive times a positive is a positive, or both of my numbers got to be negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. That means these two are out because they do not multiply to a positive. So I don't need to look at that combination. All right. So 1 times 72. I can say a positive 1 times a positive 72, or negative 1 times a negative 72. But are they going to add up to 17? Okay. I can say, so that's out. I can say a positive 2 times a positive 36, or a negative 2 times a negative 36. Either way, they're going to multiply to positive 72. But what's 2 plus 36? That's 38. That ain't nowhere near 17. So I don't need to look at that either. All right. I can say, I can try 3 and 24. But what's 3 plus 24? Three plus 24 is 27, which means negative 3 plus a negative 24 is a negative 27. That ain't 17. So what about 4 plus 18? Well, that's 22, so that ain't going to work, because a negative 4 plus a negative 18 is also negative 22. So what about 6 plus 8? That ain't going to work because that adds up to 14. Well, what about 8 plus 9? Oh, we got our numbers, because 8 plus 9 is 17. All right, so that means the two numbers that I will use would be, I could say 8 times 9, or negative 8 times negative 9. But I want them to add up to a negative 17, which means 8 plus 9 is positive 17, so I can't use that one. But negative 8 plus a negative 9 give me negative 17. So these are my two numbers, which means I can rewrite negative 17a as a negative 8a and a negative 9a. Now we get ready to write our factored form. What's going to go outside of this box that's going to multiply to a squared? An a and an a. Well, what can I multiply by a to give me negative 8a? Negative 8. What can I multiply by a to give me negative 9a? Negative 9. What is my factored form? What's across the top? A minus 8. What's across the side? A minus 9. What would be my zeros? AKA a minus 8 is equal to 0. Add 8 to both sides. A is equal to positive 8. So one of my zeros would be 8. And then we have A minus 9 is equal to 0. Add 9 to both sides. A is equal to 9. One of my zeros would be 9. So just like everything else, we're going to come over to Desmos and we are going to check our answers. All right, so this is my standard form that's in there, and I'm going to type my factored form to see if they match. X minus 8 times x minus 9. They match because they're right on top of each other, so let's see if our zeros are correct. Where does it touch the x-axis? At 9, so that one's right, and at 8, so that one's right. All right, guys, that's enough for today because I know that was a lot. We'll take it up a notch tomorrow.